Hello, scrufftards, botniks, idiots, freaks, geeks, degenerates, and morons. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. So we are gonna focus a bit on in this video on three key battles ongoing at the moment along the front line in Ukraine. Three crucial battlefields that are important for the overall war effort. Might seem small in scale, but the grander implications down the line will have a tremendous impact, would be my guess. And crucially, Ukraine is having some success in these areas that is of significance. So let's take a look at it. Right, so gonna do something different here. Gonna talk about certain specific points along the front line. A lot of stuff is happening all over the place. I'm just gonna focus on a couple of them. Sumy Oblast, Battle of Kanai 2.0. Did I call it, or did I call it how many months ago? Anyway, things are happening at Andriivka and Pokrovsk. We have Ukraine saying they've secured the high ground outside of Andriivka, and that would be here. If we take a look at the topography map, whatever you call it. This windbreak here is right on top of the high ground, and then everything slopes down into these valleys. This is also right here. You can see Russia aiming a lot of airstrikes today, or a day or two ago, indicating that indeed Ukraine did push into this windbreak, securing the peak of the hill here. They are at the top of the hill, overlooking the entire area. So Ukraine has well and truly pushed out and secured the top of the hill. Oleksivka, Russian mill bloggers are talking about Russian units leaving in full retreat to avoid being surrounded and cut off, which I find interesting. We have different mappers showing different things. A couple of mappers do indicate that Ukraine has pushed into the south of Oleksivka and maybe even up here. Other mappers have this farm as under Ukrainian control. This is, by most accounts, contested. Russia has pushed south for a bit to the east of the map here, more than likely in control of Novomykhalaivka, but this windbreak remains contested. So if we're going to take the mill bloggers and say what they're saying, that there's a risk of the Oleksivka being surrounded, maybe we are seeing Ukraine is pushing up here to cut this supply line into town. It is the only viable road. You have dirt roads going up north, but you can't really rely on them to bring in vehicles at speed or volume at any rate. You can move troops through the trees, absolutely, but if it's going to be cut off, maybe it's up here. Maybe we're seeing Ukrainians push up this way as well, since they might be this far into town. And they are also, if we have Ukrainians in this farm, they are in the south end of town and maybe coming up to the east. It does get that feel that Oleksivka is slowly being surrounded, like the Russian mill bloggers are saying that the troops themselves have reported Oleksivka is about to be surrounded. But Russia might find a solution like they did at Tevkino. Tevkino was almost cut off, and in the last week Russia has deployed a lot of manpower to push the Ukrainians back, and they appear to have done so successfully. At what casualty rates, who knows, but Ukraine is being pushed back at Tevkino. But anyway, here at Oleksivka, it appears as if Ukraine does have the upper hand, and the Russians are, according to Russian sources, leaving Oleksivka to avoid being surrounded. And moving down to Kupiansk and the area between Kupiansk and Vovchansk, this area we know Russia has pushed in, secure territory, and I've been talking about this for some time. If Ukraine does not allocate manpower from Vovchansk and Kupiansk, Russia might push on towards the middle here. You have some road networks, hubs in these towns. And from here, Russia can fan out and support Kupiansk. They can fan north and hit Volchansk, or maybe push across to the river and lakes and isolate this entire area, which is not in Ukraine's interest. So Ukraine will more than likely allocate troops from the Kupiansk front line, from Volchansk, to deal with this incursion, which of course gives Russia opportunities in Volchansk and Kupiansk, which appears to have happened. Russia has pushed across the river of Volchansk, secured some parts of the woods to the west of the city or the town, so an indication that this push had an impact. And now we're seeing this big push north of Kupiansk, where Russians are pushing in to maybe surround Kupiansk from in the north. So I'm thinking this push has had an impact on Kupiansk and Volchansk, because these two advances happened, basically in conjunction slightly after this took place. But that's not it. Ukraine is of course counterattacking, since they have moved troops up here trying to deal with the Russians. And that looks a bit like this. We have Ukrainian attack in the west and a successful attack in the north, just along the border. We can see Ukraine has liberated the territory, but what is it that they have liberated? Well, it's these small woods here, and one farm. That is the extent of this push. Ukraine has secured one farm slightly north of Myrnohrad, while also attacking in the west. So small gains, but nothing major in the area. Jumping down south to the Velika Novosilka and Zaporizhzhia front line. This is the collapsing front line, by the way. It's been static for 2 weeks, I think, the collapsing front line. Russia, like we said, Russia was moving through an area with very few Ukrainian defenses, so the advance sped up a bit, but then they slammed right into the prepared defensive lines, basically along this line here, and they have struggled to advance ever since. So much for a collapsing front line. And I just want to highlight to the Vatniks, I mean, this push here, this is essentially what it's been like ever since Russia began taking the assault on Andriivka in September of 2023. Russia has pushed at maximum 60 kilometers essentially in 2 years' time. Same thing out of Marinka. I mean, the assault on Marinka began way back in 2023. Anyway, 2023. So they've been pushing here for over 2 years, reaching 63 kilometers, just like we've seen elsewhere in this section of the front line. And that gives us an advance of roughly 80 meters per day for 2 years' time. If anyone want to do the math on how many kilometers per hour that is, you might then want to compare it to a snail's maximum top speed. That would be interesting. So kilometers per hour, they have been moving 80 meters per day on average. Glorious advance, this, and it's absolutely a collapsing front line. I agree. Oh my god. Anyway, so with this as the baseline, how far you get in 2 years? How long will it take Russia to reach Zaporizhzhia? 4 years' time. So spending 2 years here and then another 4 years, that's 6 years moving out of Donetsk to reaching Zaporizhzhia, if this is anything to go by. And if they have a breakthrough in the south, it's going to take them a year to reach Zaporizhzhia. So this is the collapsing front line, moving 80 meters per day, and it takes Russia 6 years to move, I don't know, 180 kilometers or something. 6 years. Yeah, collapsing front line, my ass. Now we're moving over to Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad, where all the action seems to be happening, and different mappers show different things. So what have I highlighted? I have highlighted where Russia is advancing, where they're attacking, and where Ukrainians more than likely operating, and where they have their main defensive lines. So we have Russia has moved into these towns here. They've taken Novoekonomice here along the border, along the river. I mean, absolutely, this is confirmed by multiple sources. Deep state is falling behind. Russia has also begun pushing up the valleys here after having blasted them with airstrikes for how many weeks and months, pushing up towards Shakova like we've been talking about for months on end now. And then there was the push at Razine on the 13th of July, and then the push north through Novotretsky up towards Noveshakova. Here's the thing though, Razine has seen a lot of Russian drones striking targets in the last couple of days, between the 20th and 25th essentially, and maps are showing ISW is showing Razine as contested. This is more than likely the location of a Ukrainian counterattack. Ukraine has more than likely moved in and they are contesting Razine. Razine is not under Russian control. You might have Russians in town. Dog sleeping. You might have Russians in town, but you sure as hell have Ukrainians as well. Razine is contested. So deep state is falling behind here. We have geolocated Russians north here thanks to Ukraine control map. Up around Suvorova, so Russia has pushed in this way. You can see the valley here, and this is where they're taking cover. But Razine contested, and maybe even under Ukrainian control. Then you have Novotretsky. Many mappers have this as under Russian control, and then you have this contested area up here that it goes straight through Ukrainian fortified defenses. At Mayak you have a heavily fortified hill, for instance. You have a fortified valley, and all of a sudden Russia has moved through all of this and reached Noveshakova. The thing is, ISW has all of this as claimed Russian advances. There's nothing geolocated up here, apparently, according to Ukraine control map and according to ISW. Nothing is geolocated in Novotretsky and Mayak, according to ISW and Ukraine control map. Russia has claimed they pushed up here, but we're not seeing any evidence of it, apparently. So I'm thinking what we might have had is, just as in Pokrovsk, Russian special forces have infiltrated behind Ukrainian lines and intercepted logistical trucks moving along the supply line here. So indicating we have Russians operating here, attacking supply lines, and they must have reached this far somehow, and that is why mappers have, mapped out that Russia is advancing here and maybe even taken Novotretsky due to Russian claims. But so far nothing geolocated, is my understanding. Novotretsky might still be under Ukrainian control. Mayak is more than likely under Ukrainian control. This is a massive defensive hub. So I'm thinking this is misleading. I'm thinking this is misleading. This is misleading as well. Russia is in control down here. Ukraine is controlled here. This is Ukrainian. And Russia is pushing up currently towards Shakova, according to the latest updates. And it's like I said a couple of weeks back, a month ago, north of Pokrovsk is this kill box, where you had Ukrainian defenses out here, then open territory with few Ukrainian defenses. And if Russia was moving through here, path of least resistance, they had few trench lines to occupy that offered them cover when Ukraine began blasting them with artillery and drones. So Russia is currently operating in an area with few defenses, few hiding places, except for in Novoekonomice, where you have buildings where they can hide. and it doesn't appear as if they pushed into Novotretsk in full either. So Russia is, by the looks, struggling. They pushed up to the river and has since, really haven't done anything since the 13th of this month. And then you have the main defensive line here for the Ukrainians, and as you can see, Russia is nowhere near it because they're stuck out here in areas with very little cover, with few hiding places, and Ukrainian drones and airstrikes and artillery are flying in and crushing them by all accounts. But Russia is advancing nonetheless. They've taken over Konomeche. They're pushing up to Shakovy because they want Shakovy and lots of vital bridges that will allow them to cross the river and begin pushing along this supply line to reach the main supply line out of Dobropilya that comes in from the north into Pokrovsk. You also have a railroad going through Rudinsk here that can be used for logistical purposes. And of course, Russia would like to come in through Kotlina to reach these supply lines here at Rushine. But like we said, months ago, that the defenses at the Dutch and Kotlina will probably hold until Russia can secure territory to the south, which they now down. That allows them to place artillery, and with that artillery they can bombard Kotlina and Dutchne and make this push towards the supply lines. Russia has begun pushing to the outskirts of Pokrovsk at Svirove, and they're going to try and push up to this point here. This is a slag heap, and with two access way into Svirove from the east and from the north, and Russia's focusing artillery here to deny Ukraine moving through, so they're screening this part of town with artillery and airstrikes and drone strikes, denying Ukraine the chance to move in reinforcements, and that should make it easier for the Russians to move up and clear buildings, since Ukraine can't reinforce and Russia doesn't have to worry about their own artillery hitting them. Standard support unit behavior, you cut off an area, area of denial essentially. The enemy can't move through, and then you leave. It's up to the assault element essentially to clear out the objective. So the support element just makes sure that no enemies can reach the objective, and then the assault element has the duty to, or the mission to clear out the objective as fast as they can. At Shevchenko, there's a small village north of Shevchenko. Russia has been trying to build up forces here, mechanized forces with motorcycles and what have you. Ukraine has blasted them with drones. So unclear if Russia has enough manpower and vehicles to make this push up from the south. And in the center of town, Russia has moved in special forces, Spetsnaz units and what have you, and they're attacking Russian logistics and what have you, moving through town to try and reach Svirove. And like I've said, how many months? Is it 8 to 10 months? If Russia enters Pokrovsk prematurely before they've cut all the supply lines, this battle favors Ukraine. Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad favors Ukraine if they have functional logistics and supplies into town. And it appears as if these defenses they are holding, Russia can't reach Rudinsk. Kotlina holds, Russia can't push through and reach these supply lines. Ukraine has the opportunity, if that's the plan, who knows, but Syrsky fought at Kiev. He was in charge of the defenses of Bakhmut. He knows how to defend a city, and he can inflict massive amounts of casualties in a cityscape. And here we have Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad, two perfect cities for the Ukrainians to defend if they wish. And if they keep these supply lines open, they can inflict tremendous amounts of damage on the Russians here, like we've talked about before. Of course, there are other locations along the front line where Russia is having success, notably in and around Toretsk. They are advancing ever so slightly in that area surrounding the city. Up at Siversk, they have launched massive mechanized assaults that have failed, but they are launching artillery in the area, massive artillery barrages at Siversk. Ukraine has taken a small town as well, liberated the town, or pushed the Russians back at least. Stuff is happening all over the place. But I just wanted to make a video where I focused on a couple of locations, kind of doing it old school like I did back in 2023 and first half of 2024. So anyway, that's it. Hope you found it interesting. As always, go for March, Ukraine, and give them hell.